Hey guys, welcome back to another OrCAD X video. I think this is the third video in our library series, specifically for creating schematic parts. And in this video, we're going to be making a kind of a pseudo FPGA or a part that has, hundreds of pins, just to show you guys how to use the import or new part from spreadsheet functionality in OrCAD X. The reason this is important is a lot of components like FPGAs, microprocessors, especially modern ones as they become more and more powerful, will have hundreds or even thousands of pins. Now, adding each of those pins one by one is a pain in the you-know-what. And we can use things such as spreadsheets to make our lives easier, and we can also leverage the spreadsheets that are provided by the manufacturers to simply copy-paste data into the format that OrCAD X wants. And then, using the new part from spreadsheet functionality, we can have a starting point that is pins already organized into separate sections for us. And then it's just up to us to maybe make some organizational changes or aesthetic changes to our part. Now again, for this video, I'm not going to be using a specific component. I looked up some FPGAs that maybe I could use as an example, and I thought, well, maybe I'll just have a generic example, and then you guys can apply kind of what we go through in this video to any microprocessor, any FPGA, maybe even any connector that you want to speed up making your symbols. All right, so how do we create these components from spreadsheets? It's super easy. Right-click on your OLB and select New Part from Spreadsheet. All right, so the first thing you need to remember is, a lot of these fields here, so like your part name, the number of sections, are very similar to if we were just making a new part from scratch. However, I'm just gonna call this part demo. This number of sections, if we want our spreadsheet to import correctly into this list here, make sure that you set the number of sections before you actually paste the information. So for my example, I have 3 sections, and we're going to use the part reference prefix of U. By default, there are 4,096 pins in this import form. If you need to add more pins, simply click Add Pins, but gosh, if you're working with anything more than 4,000 pins, I'm sure you're in for a tough ride. Okay, so how does this work? Now, the columns in this form, this is more or less a spreadsheet, are representative of all the properties that our pins have when we're adding them kind of graphically to our symbol. So we have here the pin number, pin name, the pin type, and you'll notice we can actually use a drop down here to select it manually if we need to. Whether or not the pin is visible, the pin shape, so if you remember, we have like the shape of line, we have the shape short. Pin group, if we want to include, for example, pin swapping in our symbol. We're not going to use that in this video. The pin position, which again, if you click, has bottom, left, right, or top, which is just simply for organizing the pins in our symbol quickly. And then finally, the section. Since we have 3 sections, just remember that the sections are actually alphabetical. So don't type in section 1, 2, and 3. Make sure that you type in section A, B, and C. All right, now I'm going to switch over here to my spreadsheet. And what we want to do is basically just copy what we have here into the columns. Now you can either, create columns named number, name, type, pin visibility, shape, pin group, position, and section. Or if you've done this a million times, simply just start writing in your information on the first row. I'm just going to do this for the sake of this example. And you know what? We can even format these nicely with some nice colors here. My table has headers. There we go. All right, so the pin number, we basically just want to start from pin 1 and work our way down. Again, if you're importing this from a spreadsheet from a manufacturer, you might have to actually take whatever pin numbers they have, reorganize them, and then paste them into the spreadsheet to, match the format. But that's fairly easy to do. I'm going to go ahead and add 120 pins. So this would be 120 right here. And we're going to name these just kind of arbitrarily for the purposes of this example. I'm going to have some VDD pins. We'll have VDD1, VDD2, and let's go ahead and copy that to, let's say, 1 through 15. That sounds good. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Yep. And then let's say we have some AVDD pins. So AVDD1, AVDD2, AVDD3, AVDD4, AVDD5, and then some ground pins. Oops, we want this to be ground 1, ground 2. And if you're more, if you're better at using spreadsheets than I am, then I'm sure that there's some other tricks to do this. This is just how I kind of learned to use spreadsheets over time. I'm sure that there's some fancy macros that you can use as well to speed this up. For the pin type, let's go ahead and first fill out the rest of this table. So the rest of these pins, pins 41 through 120, are just going to be GPIO pins, where it's GPIO 1, 2, and all the way down to, I believe we should have about 80 pins. There we go. The type, this is your standard pin types where you have like input, output, power pins. These happen to be power pins for our 1 through 20. Then we have some ground pins for 21 through 40. And then our GPIO pins are simply bidirectional. You know what? I should have removed the formatting because it's making my table run a little sluggish. Let's go ahead and see if we can't remove that. We want to, I believe there should be a clear formats. There we go. Maybe this will run a little better now. And let's go ahead and delete these at the top. Clear all. Still running a little slow. All right, here's what we're going to do. We're going to copy these into another sheet. Copy. There's a new sheet. There we go. All right, this is running much quicker. So we named all our GPIO pins bidirectional. If we look at this other sheet, the column D is going to be our, we removed it from here. So here our fourth column is visibility. Now the visibility is either 1 for visible, 0 for invisible. So we just want these all to be 1s. We want all of our pins to be visible. Easy as that. The shape, as I mentioned before, we want line. If you're not sure what to use, simply click on this little drop down here and we have, for example, line, dot, short, etc. Again, we're going to copy this and paste it into there. Next, we have pin group. We're going to leave that empty because we are not using any pin swapping functionality. For the position, this is simply bottom, left, right, or top. It's how we want to organize the pins on our symbol. So what I'm going to do here is all of these power pins are going to be on the left side per section. So for example, pins 1 through 20 are going to be on the left, and then the ground pins are going to be on the right. So 21 through 40 are on the right. And then I'm just going to copy that for each GPIO group. So for example, GPIO 1 through 40 is going to have 1 through 20 on the left side, 21 through 40 on the right side, and then same thing for 41 through 80. All right, last but not least is our section. So we want all of these power pins to be in section A. The GPIO 1 through 40 to be in section B, and 41 through 80 will be in section C. And that's about it. So we've put together our spreadsheet. Again, if you're working with like 400, 500, even 1,000 pins, you'll have a much longer spreadsheet. But doing it in this format, instead of doing it pin by pin, I guarantee you will save you time, because what we can do now is simply copy this table, paste it into our import form here. And I do recommend just doing a quick spot check. So for example, I forgot to set the power pins, it looks like. Or, oh, I set those to ground. Ground does not exist in OrCAD X. They are also power pins. So let me just change that really quick. And we're going to repaste that into the table. So again, good idea to do a spot check. Let's do a paste here. There we go. So if we scroll through all these, make sure everything looks okay. And it does. When you're ready, simply go ahead and click save. There is our demo part. And look at that. All of the hard work that we put into our spreadsheet, putting the power pins on the left side here, ground pins on the right side, the pin is line. We have all the pin names that we've put in, the pin numbers. If we look on the bottom left here, we have our sections. So GPIO 1 through 40 is in section B. GPIO 41 through 80 is in section C. If we go into our schematic, we can then simply place this demo part. Here's our section 1, 2, and 3. Again, U3A, U3B, U3C. Really, really easy to get a part going from a spreadsheet. And again, if you're working with an FPGA, you can split the different banks into different symbol sections. If you're working with a microprocessor, maybe you have different ports that you want to split up. The power maybe gets its own section. Maybe you have a separate section for, if there's a digital signal processing block. Whatever it might be, I really, really recommend using a simple Excel spreadsheet. Organize the columns as they are in the import form. Again, new part from spreadsheet. There are your columns. And then, simply copy paste it into the form, hit save, and the part is more or less done for you. Again, the only thing you might need to do is, maybe you want a little bit more spacing between these pins. Simply, make your symbol larger and then readjust the pins as necessary. Whatever it might be, use time-saving features. All right, so that was it for video number 3. Guys, we have one more video left in this series for schematic symbols. I believe we're going to be looking at things like schematic art and how to add some information to your schematic symbol if you have, for example, like an Ethernet connector with magnetics, right? Sometimes it's nice to have some additional graphics that display what that symbol does. All right, so look forward to that in the 4th video. Again, guys, thanks for watching. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those below. If you have ideas for future videos, also please let us know what you'd like to see. And yeah, thanks again, and we'll see you in the next video.